Tonight's dinner is going to be braised beef shanks and red wine, which is a variation of ossobuco. We're using beef hind shank instead of veal shanks. We want them to be tied so that this is a braised dish, so hopefully it won't fall apart as you take it out of the cooking liquid. We have flour for dredging, salt and pepper, olive oil for browning the meat, 1 tablespoon of diced garlic, 1 cup of minced onions, 1 half cup of carrots, 1/2 cup of celery, which is known as a mirepoix. Anything that you cook with onions, carrots, and celery is usually going to have a lot of flavor. We have some parsley stems for added flavor, lemon zest, a tablespoon of tomato puree or tomato paste, 1 cup of red wine, and 2 cups to start with beef broth. First thing we're going to do is salt and pepper both sides of the hind shank. You always seem to get a little better flavor with a fresh cracked black pepper. We're going to take the 2 tablespoons of oil and put it in our Dutch oven and preheat the oven. While the Dutch oven is preheating, we're going to take and lightly flour, dust off the hind shanks. If you notice, when I tied the hind shanks, I left an extra piece of string on the top side so that after this is braised, because this is going to cook for 1 to 2 hours until it's fork tender, this makes it easy to pull it out of the cooking liquid. Okay, if you can see inside the Dutch oven, the oil is just starting to shimmer from the heat, and we're going to put in the hind shanks, and we're going to put what we call the show side down. This is the side that you're going to see on the finished product, so we're going to put what you see at the finished dish in the bottom of the pan to start off with. And we're going to let these brown over a high heat. Okay, when browning the beef hind shank, you take a pair of tongs, you'll see that it's sticking to the bottom of the Dutch oven. Do not pry it loose from the bottom of the Dutch oven. When it's ready and it's brown, it will release itself and you'll be able to turn it over very easily. Right now, it's sticking a little bit, so do not force it to turn it over. Okay, the veal sheet is now released from the bottom of the pan. As I flip it over, you can see the show side is nicely browned. You don't want to crowd the pieces together because we're not trying to boil the meat. We're trying to sear it off and brown it. We'll let the second side brown, and then I'm going to transfer it to a hotel pan. Now I like to finish this in the oven, although this can be done on the top of the stove in the Dutch oven, or the Dutch oven can be placed in your convection oven. But this works out very, very well if we do it in a hotel pan. Now when the second side is brown and releases, and it's pretty much there right now, we're going to put this into the hotel pan where it will rest, and we're going to take and add the onions, carrots, and celery. We're going to reduce the heat to medium take a wooden spoon and just wet these vegetables until they're soft. Okay, we're going to add just a little bit more olive oil. Make sure these have nice color. It's going to take just a few minutes for these to sweat. If you cut them very, very fine, and a brunoise would be an 1/8-inch dice, the more surface area you have, the more flavor you're going to get released from your vegetable. You could take and try a small piece to see if it's tender. They're still a little crunchy, so a couple more minutes to go. Okay, the vegetables are now crisp tender. We're going to add our tablespoonful of garlic, and we're going to let that cook for about 1 minute. If you notice in the bottom of the pan, there are some brown bits from when we browned off the beef hind shank. And once the garlic has become aromatic, we're going to pour in our cup of red wine and deglaze the pan. Actually, before we do the red wine, we're going to put in our tomato paste and let that brown just slightly with the vegetables. Whenever making a sauce with beef, usually you add some sort of a tomato or acid product to it. And let that cook just a little bit. And now we'll add the red wine. We want to bring that back up to a high, bring it to a boil. Scrape the brown bits from the bottom of the pan. And we're going to reduce this red wine by half. You can use a Burgundy or a Cabernet. This wine I happen to use today was a Malbec from Argentina. So it has a very, very nice flavor. You can't smell what's boiling out of the pan, but I can, and it smells wonderful. We'll let that come to a boil and reduce by half. Okay, our wine is now reduced by half. We're going to add our lemon zest and our parsley stems. We're going to give it a quick turn, and we're going to add our 2 cups beef stock. We're then going to bring this all to a boil, and we will pour it over our beef hind shanks, and we will take and cover it with aluminum foil. In the meantime, we're preheating our oven to 350 degrees if it's a regular oven, or 325 degrees for a convection oven. And we're going to bake until the hind shanks are almost ready to fall apart, that they're just very fork tender. And we're just waiting for the beef broth to come to a boil. Okay, now that our pot has come to a boil, we will turn off the heat. Make sure when you grab the pot that you're using dry pot holders or a dry towel. We're going to take and pour this into our hotel pan. This is a 9x13 hotel pan. When you pour this into the pan, make sure you pour it away from you so that the steam does not come up into your face and burn you. The liquid should come up about 3/4 of the way around the shanks. And we're going to seal this up with aluminum foil. and put it in the oven and test it after 1 hour. This could take anywhere from 1 to 2 hours to cook. This is a great dish to make for a party because it can be made 1 or 2 days ahead of time and then reheated on the day of the party. So all of the work is done on a previous day. And we're going to put it in the top. I have a split convection oven here, and this will go in the top to the oven. And we're going to set our timer for 1 hour to check this. And we'll see you in an hour. Okay, for tonight's vegetable with the beef hind shanks, we're going to do fresh asparagus. What I like to do with the asparagus is I like to peel it because it gives you a longer piece of asparagus, you have less waste. And what we're trying to do is just peel away the outside of the woody end, and you peel away towards you. Once in a while, if the asparagus is a little old, the stalks will pull apart. But if you have nice fresh asparagus, you just want to take off enough that you don't have a woody stem. And when this cooks up, it'll be a nice bright color. Now there's a number of ways of cooking asparagus, and you can roast asparagus, you can saute asparagus, you can grill asparagus. What we're doing with this dinner is we're just going to boil it in salted water. It's a way that we used to do it at the hotel I worked at in France, and it seems to be a very, very nice way of doing this. And once I get all the asparagus peeled, we're going to tie it into a bunch. Now, I have found they do have asparagus cookers where the asparagus stands up straight and you can steam the asparagus, but I find this works out really well. You can take and cook your asparagus in the morning and then refresh it, shock it and refresh it in a cold water bath, in an ice bath, and then when you have your dinner party, you can watch it in the morning while you're cooking it, to cook it to perfection, shock and refresh it, and then when you're having your dinner party, you put a pot of boiling water on the stove, and you can drop it in the boiling water for 30 seconds, drain it, butter it, or make hollandaise sauce, and it's all ready to go. And you've got more time to spend with your guests because you aren't spending all the time cooking over the stove. If you notice as I'm peeling this, the bottoms of the asparagus are a nice, beautiful green color, and this will get even brighter after it's cooked. We're only going to cook this in boiling water for about 5 minutes. There's a point in time where the asparagus goes from raw to cooked, and that's what we want, is we want it into a cooked state, but we don't want it to be overcooked or mushy. Don't want it to taste like it came out of a can. That's the whole idea of the fresh asparagus. I have a personal preference for the thicker asparagus. Thinner asparagus is no more or less tender than the thick asparagus. People seem to think that thicker asparagus is old and tough and whatever, and it's not. It is easier to peel, and once you cut out the stems, you can save and freeze the stems for making asparagus soup. And the asparagus soup is for another video. And the thinner asparagus is a little harder to peel. Okay, so we're going to take all our asparagus tips. We're going to clean our cutting board. A bench scraper works really well for this. We're going to take our paring knife and we're going to cut all our asparagus to the same length, but you're going to get more asparagus out of this because you peeled everything. Actually, I think we're going to use a chef's knife, which I don't have handy, And we just cut the bottoms off like that. So everything is even. Now I pre-cut a piece of string. I'm going to hold the string between two fingers. I'm going to wrap it around the asparagus into a bunch. I'm going to turn it over, wrap it the other way from the other side, and I'm going to tie it, leaving a longer piece of string from the top side, so that when I want to pull it out of the water, I have a neat little package. Now this is all ready to go, and I got some time left before the veal shanks are done, so we're just going to set this aside for now. Okay, 1 hour has elapsed, and we're going to check on our beef shank to see how the cooking is coming along. My guess would be it is going to have to cook for a little while longer. When you open up something out of the oven that's hot, you open up the side away from you so the steam doesn't go into your face and burn you. Take a fork and check this, and if you can see, there's still a lot of resistance to the fork. So this is going to go back into the oven. My guess is it's going to be for another hour, but we're going to set the timer for 30 minutes and see where we are in a half an hour. Okay, while the beef shanks are cooking, we're going to make a topping to put on the beef shanks, because after we've pulled out the beef shanks and we made the sauce, we're going to put the beef shanks under the broiler. What we're going to do is we're going to take 2 ounces of fresh bread in a blender or a food processor. We're going to make fresh breadcrumbs. We're going to take the fresh breadcrumbs, mix them with a tablespoon of fresh parsley, a teaspoon of fresh chopped garlic, and 2 ounces of melted butter. Put this all together. This will brown up nicely under the blender, or under the broiler. And we're just going to set these aside in a bowl until we're ready to use it. And you can see nice crumbly buttered breadcrumbs, fresh parsley, and garlic. Very similar to a persilade that you'd use on braised lamb shanks. After about an hour and 45 minutes, we'll pull this out of the oven, set it on a trivet, and check and see how tender we are. Remember, I said open this from the opposite side of your face so the steam doesn't hit you in the face. See the steam pop out? You don't want that hitting you in the face. And let's stick a fork in this. And it's pretty tender. We're going to take and pick this up. I think I'm going to have to use a spatula to get it up, because they are so tender. I don't want them falling apart. I'm going to put these on a sizzle plate. I'm going to take and sprinkle some of the buttered breadcrumbs on the top. And we'll turn the broiler on and put them under the broiler. Okay, Okay, we're going to strain the cooking liquid into a saucepan. And we're going to take and press the vegetables to extract the liquid from the vegetables and the flavor. There's a tremendous amount of flavor in these vegetables. We'll set that aside. We're going to let this cool for just a couple minutes to allow the fat to rise to the surface, and then we will defat the pan. Our cooking liquid has cooled off enough that we can skim the fat off the top with a ladle. You can see there's just the fat, leaving the sauce behind because we don't want a greasy sauce. And I've just turned the burner back on, and we'll turn it up to high. We're going to boil this until it reduces down and thickens slightly. Okay, our asparagus water came to a boil, so we put in our asparagus package. We're going to cook for approximately 5 minutes. In the pan next to it, we have our sauce reducing. I'm going to to give it a little bit more body. There's a variety of ways of thickening a sauce. You can make a slurry with flour and then stock. What I'm going to do is use a little bit of cornstarch and cold water. I'm going to let this reduce a little further to concentrate the flavors, and then I'm going to add the cornstarch to that. And underneath the broiler is the braised lamb shanks with the buttered breadcrumbs on the top. And we're going to let this warm up for just a little bit under the broiler for about 5 minutes. Okay, our cooking liquid is reduced, and I'm just going to thicken a little bit with about a tablespoon of cornstarch and about a tablespoon of water. Should give it a nice shiny color. When you take the tablespoon of cornstarch, you're going to mix it with cold water, pour it in slowly, and then we're going to bring this back to a boil. Our asparagus is just about done. Give that a couple minutes, and I'm going to check on the braised beef shanks, and they have just got a nice golden brown color on the top. Okay, in a bowl, we're going to take our garlic mashed potatoes, and we'll cut the string off the braised beef shank, which is extraordinarily tender. Plate this over the mashed potatoes. And we're going to take our sauce around the perimeter of the braised beef shank, and then we will wipe off the edge. And there you have it. Okay, I buttered the asparagus, a little bit of fresh ground salt and pepper. Asparagus could be served like this, with just butter. A little lemon juice goes well with asparagus. Hollandaise sauce over asparagus. And a European way of doing it is to put a poached egg over the top, and when you break the egg, it makes a sauce for the asparagus. And if you take a little bit of shredded Parmesan cheese, that and the poached egg make a wonderful sauce for the asparagus. And there you have it.